Okay, our next speaker is Lydia Dagostino. Now, Lydia is the coordinator, one of the lawyers who is the coordinator of the non-state, non-police core participants lawyers group. She represents specific core participants, but also coordinates meetings and general liaison with the inquiry team. And Lydia has been representing activists for 25 years, I think. So over to you, Lydia.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me. I did a Zoom meeting this morning that people had difficulties, so start waving if you can't. Now, we're 5.5 years in to this process since the inquiry was announced and started. It feels like we're on the cusp of an absolutely momentous occasion. We're about to open the doors and get an eye onto 50 years of political and secret policing. When the inquiry starts on Monday with the opening statements. Now, for the past few weeks, we've all been working together, coordinating, preparing opening statements. And I think I can just say that it's been a huge pain for many of the people involved in revisiting, opening old wounds, just beginning to even put their thoughts into a process that's going to be uploaded and not only uploaded onto the inquiry website, but there'll be statements made in the next couple of weeks. I think it's 7 days. If the timetable's just gone up yesterday and today, and we've circulated the link, and I would invite people to look at it very carefully to see the order of opening statements. For the very first time, we're going to be hearing from effectively the engines of the state. There'll be statements from the Metropolitan Police Service, the National Crime Agency, the Home Office, and some might wonder why the Home Office is a core participant, but it's quite significant. It shows that some of the decisions and involvement of the Special Demonstration Squad went to the very highest level. And so I was just distracted by the chat there for a second. So it effectively went to the highest level. Now, I think it is shocking. One thing that we've only just discovered, and I'm sorry, Lisa, to say this, the person who's going to be very conspicuous by their absence and who will not be providing an opening statement, either orally or in writing, is going to be Mark Kennedy. I'm afraid that the inquiry has confirmed that he was given a slot, or his lawyers were given a slot to speak out about him, and he has pulled out. Now, the way it's going to work is that written opening statements will be uploaded, and then there'll be oral opening statements by each of the state and then eventually the non-state core participants. And effectively, one of the points that we want to emphasise, we want to get MITting to really look at some of the central issues that we have been trying to bring to the attention of the inquiry, to the forefront of the media, to the forefront of the public mind for years now, and that's essentially the disclosure of cover names, disclosure of group names. How do you know who you've been spied on if you don't know who the spy is? How do you know if you were spied on if you don't know the name of the group which was spied on? There are photographs of undercover officers, particularly from the older deployments. The difficulty with the older deployments is many people don't remember somebody called Mark or Jason or Scott. It is only by looking at the photos that memories will be triggered. And quite significantly, as was indicated by Diane Abbott in her speech, effectively people want their files. They want to see not just a redacted version of the file held on them, not a sanitized version that the state has cast its eyes over. They want to see the full unedited version of their files. Now, the other point, if you go through the listing of the public inquiry has posted about the order and sequence of events, you'll see that there's going to be 5,300 pages of material that's going to be published. That's a fraction of the documents, and that's going to be uploaded as the inquiry progresses. The whole bundle will go up at the end of, as I understand it, of phase one, tranche one. Now, what does this mean? What is phase one, tranche one? So the first section of the inquiry will be dealing with opening statements. Phase one, tranche one is effectively looking at 1969 and up to 1972. And it is looking at the Vietnam Solidarity Campaign. And effectively, that is the root of where the Special Demonstration Squad was formed. And so there will be a substantial amount of material being uploaded to the inquiry website about the campaign against the war in Vietnam, and some key figures will be giving evidence. There are 3 civilian witnesses. There are before they're going to start giving their evidence at the start after the end of the opening statements. And the 3 civilian witnesses, one is Tariq Ali, who'll be giving a live statement. The second is Dr. Norman Temple, and the third, unfortunately, is unwell, so his statement is going to be read to the public inquiry. There will then follow on from that statements from a number of undercover police officers, and you will get to hear from managers and some officers, some of whom been given anonymity, so we don't get to know who they are, but they quite clearly were involved in attending routine meetings and so on. So they will be giving evidence. But this is the very, very start of what can only be a long process. And I have to say that obviously, as with many things that are happening in the world at the moment, COVID hasn't helped. And that the impact of COVID has effectively resulted in the splitting up of what was going to be tranche 1 into 3 phases. So we're on the cusp of the very, very first critical phase, Vietnam solidarity. And I mean, I think what does this mean to us today? What we will want the inquiry to look at when we go through this is effectively how were some of those deployments justified into largely peaceful groups or people who were on the periphery, as Lisa was. We'll be looking at whether people were collateral damage, and also effectively, where do you draw the line? Is a sit-in, a peaceful sit-in, something that should attract the machine of the secret state coming down and infiltrating and spying on those involved? And that's something that I think that people should have at the back of their minds when they start processing the material, is where do you draw the line? And at what point effectively is being involved in something, going to a cinema to see a film showing, buying a book, attending a meeting, at what point do you draw the line? And do things become thought crimes effectively? And I think that it's critical when you have these things in your mind when the inquiry starts opening. Now, people are going to be asking key questions about the interplay with the Special Demonstration Squad, the security services, and how that information was fed back. They want to know why their basic human rights were infringed, and they want to know who was accountable, who was responsible for making these decisions, how high up did it go? So effectively, coming to an end now, what I would like people to think about now is, although this inquiry is 50 years ago and people will say it is out of date, effectively it is not out of date. The government is about to pass law in Parliament effectively authorising undercover police officers to commit crimes. And in January 2020, The Guardian reported that groups such as Greenpeace had found themselves on the domestic extremist register. So this is not something about 50 years ago. This is happening all the way through, even to this date. So I would urge everyone to follow the proceeding very closely, look at the documents very closely, and hear for the first time what the state has got to say about these deployments and undercover policing. I'm going to sign off now and let someone else speak.